The Christian Cemetery of Western Road, Penang. It is easily accessible by cars or taxis. Its entrance is a driveway directly across from the blue and white Masonic temple at the corner of Jalan Utama and Jalan Brown. Though it may not be the oldest Christian cemetery in Penang, but it is the largest one around, and amazingly, it does contain many interesting graves recalling important aspects of Malaysia's and Penang's 20th century history. It lays as a final resting place for both the Catholics and Protestants. The cemetery has been in use since the late 19th century, when the Protestant cemetery at Jalan Sultan Ahmad Shah was closed to further burials. Of a particular note are the graves of the Roman Catholic brothers and sisters who contributed so much to the development of modern education in the country. There are also the graves of the vanished Armenian community, graves removed from the original site beside the former Armenian church on Bishop Street when the church land was sold in 1937. Also buried at the Western Road Cemetery are British soldiers who died fighting communists during the emergency campaign of 1948 to 1960. A memorial is erected to them near the gate into the cemetery. There are also graves to soldiers from the Royal Australian Air Force, RAAF in short. Other notable graves on site include an unusual monument displaying the salvaged anchor of the Russian cruiser Zemshak that was sunk. 348 crewmen killed in the attack. However, only the remains of 7 sailors recovered from the wreck were interred in the tomb. We have come across several unique tombs along our analysis. Among them was a tomb which had a statue of a dog erected on it. It is said that after the person of the tomb, named Andrew, was buried there, his dog would visit his grave every day without fail, and after the dog had passed as well, people erected his statue there as a tribute. Another interesting story would be the graves of the Malayan police officers which was killed during the emergency. Many of the graves share a common design and are to be found near the graves of the Commonwealth servicemen also killed during the emergency. According to a report in the Times of 7th May 1950, 28-year-old Assistant Superintendent Dawson was an Australian who had served 2 years in police and had already been awarded the Colonial Police Medal. He was killed leading a jungle squad in a surprise attack on a bandit camp. The most senior police officer buried in the Western Road Cemetery was the Chief Police Officer of Kedah, Assistant Commissioner Charles Neville Godwin, who was killed on 28 May 1954 when his car was ambushed. According to a report in the Times of 30th May 1954, the ambush took place at a point where a tree had felled across the road. About 30 terrorists reportedly took part in the attack. While strolling the site further, we have come to notice that there are some people who passed away because of sickness, and this specific grave tells the tale of a man who passed away due to cerebral malaria. Looking upon the next picture, this grave shows that sometimes our deaths are not in our hands. This innocent person was a victim of a gang robbery and died of the wounds inflicted as a result. This site plan has been separated to different zones with different color representing the different types of people being buried there. The area shaded in red is an area with majority of Chinese and a small percentage of Indians. The area in blue is an area where foreigners, mainly British, are buried, whereas the area in green represents the area where the military personnel are buried. Lastly, the area shaded in yellow contains Chinese, foreigners as well as Indians' grave. This diagram shows the topography of the site with the lighter gradient of color representing the higher ground. Thus, the ground increases in height as the color becomes lighter. The darkest green shows where the river is. As you can see, Our site boundary is built according to the shape of the contour, making our site rather random in shape. On regards of the potential site and the existing building present on the grounds of the cemetery, as can be seen in this site plan, the selected potential site is highlighted in red, whereas the surrounding few existing buildings are shaded in blue. As can be seen, on the south of the potential site is the Protestant columbarium. Another area of existing building is the residential area, which is located at the east of the potential site. The diagram shows the sun path and the shadow created by the sun during 8 a.m. of the month of July and December. If you look closely into the sun path chart, the sun path in the months of July and December projects the biggest differences in terms of angle of the shadows directing to the west, whereas shorter shadows formed by noon have less obvious differences as the sun is nearly perpendicular to the ground. By 6 p.m., the shadows created have large differences in angles. However, this is directed to the east, unlike those formed during the morning of the same month, which is July and December. It is observed that most of the time, the site is shaded as it is full of vegetation. However, the potential site we have come across is not of the same result, as there is less vegetation around that area. As for the wind direction of the site, as Penang Island is situated at the west of Malaysia, it is highly affected by the southwest monsoon. Therefore, basing on the result obtained, it is determined that most of the wind is directed from the southwest, especially between the months of April and November, which happen to be the southwest monsoon season.
Penang has an equatorial climate, which means high heat, high humidity, and high rainfall year-round. Throughout the year, daytime temperatures will generally reach around 32 degrees. At night, the average minimum temperature drops down to around 25 degrees as shown in the graph. In recent times, the highest recorded temperature in May has been 36 degrees, with the lowest recorded temperature at 21 degrees. This year's weather of Penang can be categorized into rainy season and dry season, as there are two monsoon seasons affecting Malaysia. The climate is largely dictated by the monsoon winds of the surrounding seas. This graph shows the average monthly rainfall over the year in Penang. Between September and November, Penang has the highest number of rainy days, which is the raining season for Penang. The relative humidity throughout the year maintains from 60% to 80%, as Malaysia is a highly humid country. The maximum relative humidity throughout the year happens at raining seasons between September and November, which is around 75%. Vehicles that enter the graveyard can only drive through in one direction. As they enter, they are forced to go to the right lane, and they will be led all the way around the graveyard and come out through the left lane. Pedestrian circulation. Two different colors of arrows shows that there are two ways to circulate for the pedestrians. After passing through the main entrance, there are three different directions that lead to three different areas. Pedestrians can walk into two ways to the direction and the area they want. Main noises that affect the site are the noises made by the crowd from a garden that is next to the site. There is a stage at the garden that the public will have events like dancing competitions. These events are mostly held in the morning as well as the evening. It will be less noisy during the rest of the day. Noises from vehicles on the road can be heard at the site, but is very minimal. The main road at the front gate of the cemetery has more cars than the road behind the cemetery. Although the front gate is very near to the main road, it does not affect the site much because there are plenty of trees between the main road and the front gate. Hence, only some noises of vehicles can be heard when the visitors are near to the gate and fences of the cemetery. Most noises heard in the site are the noises of trees, as the site is a windy place and has many trees. Chirping of birds can also be heard during the day. There are plenty of trees available in the site. Most of the trees grow along the roadside. Meanwhile, some trees grow in between the graveyards. Our site is surrounded by hundreds of trees, which creates a barrier to differentiate the area in the cemetery and outside the cemetery. Trees found in the cemetery. A large yellow flame tree was seen along the main route of the cemetery. The flowering of this tree is from February to May. Samina saman, also known as rain tree, are found almost everywhere on Penang Island. The tree flourishes with reddish pink and creamy golden colored flowers. Its leaves fold in the rainy weather and in the evening. Plumeria, or as we call the frangipani tree, are often planted in cemeteries. Mainly are shrubs and small trees. The tree is associated with temples in both Hindu and Buddhist cultures. The flowers are most fragrant at night in order to lure sting moths into pollinating them. At the boundary of the cemetery, you can see the Areca katichu, or Penang beetle nut palm. These trees are medium-sized and graceful palm tree. They are grown for its commercially important seed cork and the areca nut. Lagerstromia lodoni, or Thai bungor, a medium-sized decorative tree found near the grave of Andrew and the dog sculpture. The type of plant species origins from Thailand owing to its beautiful bunches of pink flowers. Phyllanthus acidus, or Malay gooseberry, is an intermediary between shrubs and trees. The flowers are formed at leafless parts of the main branches at the upper part of the tree. Views of the site were analysed in 3 different times. The first at 8:30 in the morning, the second at 12:30 in the afternoon, and the last 5 p.m. in the evening. In the morning, the site has a nicer view due to the best contrast in light and shadow. The site is nice and clean due to the fact that not much activity has been conducted yet. The fresh air in the morning also makes the haze less visible. In the afternoon, less contrast and light and shadow can be seen. It is brighter in the afternoon due to the direct projection of sunlight onto the site. In the evening, the site has less sunlight compared to the afternoon. At this period of time, the light and shadow is more contrast compared to the afternoon view. 3 types of views were taken, which are views through the site, views to the site, and views from the site. In views through the site, views A to G were taken while walking through the site along the road. A has a nice view on the right as the army's graves are arranged nicely and clean. B has a lower contour to the right, which is the potential site where there are no graves present. Along the road down, C, D, and E are full of graves. While view E looks darker due to more trees shading the area, at view F we can see the columbarium on the right, and at view G the main entrance at the back can be seen and the columbarium can be seen clearly from afar. Whereas in views to the site, the whole site from the grave of armies down to the columbarium can be seen clearly from the west of the site, which is from A to G. The whole site, including the road, is looked through in the third-person point of view. Lastly, the views from the site are divided into 8 different angles. Surrounding the spot chosen, which is the entrance to the potential site, there is roads which can be seen in views A to E, army graves in C and D, and potential site in D, and the graves in view F, G, and H.
In the site, there are many types of gravestones designed in countless of ways. Artworks and symbols found on the headstones provide more clues about the ancestor as well as their life and ideals. The column stones represent the head of the family. Therefore, a broken column can mean the loss of the head of the family. It is also a symbol for the end of life, and more specifically, life cut short. On top of that, some significant gravestones are added with an angel sculpture. In certain beliefs, angels represent safety in spirituality. They may vary in terms of their poses, and each with a different symbolic meaning. In addition to that, you may find dog sculptures appearing at the feet of medieval women, which signifies loyalty. But modern-day dogs only imply that the master was worth loving.